Hey guys, this is V-Man from No Budget Productions. We're going to be doing a Constar commentary. Uh, Today we're going to be doing Melbourne, Stormfront Part 1, the Constar edition. And so, yeah, I decided to do a Constar edition of Melbourne because, well, it links up perfectly with a lot of the storylines that I was doing with the Constar at the time. Jeremy and I had decided to do our Melbourne films, and we had a 6-part story arc that we were going to be doing, and we were only able to do part 1 of it. And so I wanted to kind of tell those remaining stories in the Constar films that I was doing. So this was kind of my way to kind of interject them into those films. To anyone that doesn't know, Melbourne was the first film that I produced, Jeremy directed, and well, he was the cinematographer on that. No, he was the director. Yeah, director. I think Matt was a cinematographer. This shot, beautifully done, I think. Very much like the Wrath of Khan type, vibe we were going for. Yeah, we wanted very much a space battle, the good old character of Fedor. And I think the CGI is the only part that I feel doesn't quite hold up, as opposed to like the battle stuff that was going on. But given the fact that this was a simulation, that's okay for this part. The CGI, usually in CGI, I have the CGI stuff done ahead of time. So I know exactly when I'm filming, I know exactly going into it what I have, and I can kind of film around the limitations, or it opens up what I can film. For this, we had shot everything, and then we started to go to work on CGI. So my mentality now is shaped in large part because of this. Because this didn't quite mesh up to what Jeremy and I originally had. We changed CGI people in middle of this film, because again, this opening sequence was kind of where we switched CGI because it wasn't quite meshing up to what we had wanted. So we cut it here, or around the end of the simulation, and then changed when real life kind of kicks in, to kind of show the difference between simulated world and regular world. But I do enjoy the fact that we're able to see, go into the film and, see the space battle. Because for anyone that doesn't know, they think just 2 spaceships or, 2 Starfleet ships are going at it. And for anyone that's going to say that I'm spoiling the film, I don't see why you would be watching a commentary on a film that you haven't seen. So I don't feel bad for you for spoilers. So it's kind of on you if you're watching this and haven't seen the film. And again, this is our character of Fedor, played by Jon Snow. And yes, that is his real name. Wonderful actor, and he played the character wonderfully. He is an Andorian and Vulcan half-breed. I love the fact that we were able to, make the Andorian hair very much like Vulcan, blue Vulcan ears. At the tips of his antenna, we put points, as opposed to being rounded like an Andorian. It is pointed like a Vulcan. So we were able to make very subtle changes, and that came to when I was a little kid. A lot of these characters were characters that I had made up for Playland, um, and Fedor was one of those. When Star Trek: The Next Generation came out, I very much wanted a character that was like Data. Um, so Fedor, when I was a little kid, was a Klingon, Romulan, Vulcan, android, human, and he was kind of my go-to, character to save the day. So when we made Melbourne, um, the character Fedor, we kind of had to scale that back, and make it a little more realistic for the fan film. So it ended up being an Andorian and Vulcan half breed, which visually, I think it's one of the most interesting characters in fan films. You don't see that. You don't see this ever. And the way he speaks, that was all on Jon Snow. He very much crafted how the character spoke. Instead of saying 203 Mark IV, he would say 203 Mike 5. Like he would always the character would speak with an I sound, kind of like an sort of like an accent there. So it was very interesting how the character spoke, but that was all on John. John would always delve into the backstory and wanted to really craft that. And he was so clever on how he did that. And then there's Larry Fleming, who played Dr. Raymond Dorrell. And here comes the Valiant, who's attacking the Melbourne. And I love the chair that Michael Sylvester's sitting in is a chair that Glenn Wolfe made for us. I wanted something a little different for Melbourne. The lighting was done by Scott Johnson, and I had told Scott that I wanted something very similar in lighting. The tone was for like yesterday's Enterprise. When you look at the lighting of that ship, it was very heavily blue. It was a dark looking ship, very heavily blues. And you could tell it was just different. It wasn't the bright light of the normal show. And I wanted that with this ship, just looking at it, you can tell it's different. To anyone that notices right now, if you look over where the Starship schematic would be over on the wall next to the turbo lift, you can tell that's a virtual plaque. And that was something that I had. I created that myself, and we put that over, just changed the ship schematic that's on the wall. I wanted something, again, I wanted anything that I could do to make the ship stand out from any other starship. I wanted, from a different chair to different lighting to the schematic. I wanted something to make this ship stand out. I didn't want it to be just another Constitution class ship or a Constitution class bridge that just happened to look like, everything else, even though it's a different ship. I wanted it to stand out. And I think we accomplished that here with the limitations that we had. And before I forget, the patch, if you look at the patch of the uniform that's on the beautiful Rochelle right here, the patch was done by Ronald Seipel, who we had done a contest, because that's something that I always believe is to be very inclusive with our fans. But we had done a contest, and it was like, hey, help us create our comm badge, help us create our patch. And whoever does the best will get to actually have the patch in the film. And he created the best. Jeremy and I picked out the best one, and the rest is history. Looks wonderful on film, and yeah, there we go. And we crafted the Melbourne, the rivets in there, in the hull, uh, the turrets on the ship. I wanted something to look, to have the feel of a battleship. I wanted something to feel very much like the quantum torpedoes of like the Defiant. I didn't want it to feel like I said, like another Constitution class ship. I wanted this to feel like this had some meat to the ship, that it could really rip you apart if it was flying towards you. It's like you wanted to move out of the way. And with this ship, um, I really wanted it to feel like it was a shark in the water, where if it turned its attention towards you, you kind of got freaked out, you know. And I feel like we accomplished that with everything that we had. And there's the Valiant getting its last section tore up and then blows up. And then Larry Fleming turning around. Well, there's the Valiant. That's right. There's the Valiant. The Courageous was the last one that got blew up. That's right. That's right. The Courageous. And for me, it was very important to have. And this CGI model right here was done by Craig Frey. Uh, and he did all these shots for the Melbourne. And I love to anyone that goes to watch a regular movie, The Perfect Pursuit did the intro music for us. They're good friends of mine, all the band members of that. And I really love this intro. It really works. It really pops. And I kind of, uh, I was, I think I was the first one, I think, that came up with like regular music for like non Star Trekky music for for doing the fan films, and have that be a regular thing for all of my stuff. I again, anything to stand out from everybody else, and anything to stand out from being, uh, you know, uh, just not Star Trek, not you know, every other fan film. I really wanted to make good films that just happened to be in Star Trek, and um, Jeremy and I agreed on, I'd say probably 98% of the stuff, and we always compromised on what we didn't agree with. Uh, it was always a pleasure working with him. Uh, and one thing that him and I agreed with, as you can see here, Shirley, who played the Admiral here, anyone that recognizes her, she's from Starship Valiant. Um, she plays the Admiral over there, Admiral Parker. But we wanted to put her in the TMP Admiral uniform, to kind of show progression of the time period, because a lot of fan films simply uh, they stay stuck in, or at least at the time, they always stayed stuck in the original series. They never wanted to move past the original series. And for Jeremy and me, we wanted to show progression of the timeline. We wanted to show, let's move past that. So you'll see those little nods to uh, the, time progression. Like you saw a refit USS Valiant flying on screen earlier in the fight. You're seeing the TMP uniform here a little bit later when they go on the away mission. You'll see uh, motion picture phasers. It's little things like that show that we're moving slowly toward the motion picture. Obviously, we couldn't. If budget would have allowed, we would have probably had, uh, you know, motion picture uniforms, or something similar to them. But we just didn't have the budget for it. Again, everything. I think we did this for $22.50. $2,250. So we did this on a very moderate budget. Uh, you know, Considering at the time most fan films were just excessive in the budget, and we did this on a very small budget. We had a lot of volunteers, a lot of good people volunteering their time. Um, and we really showed what you could accomplish with next to nothing, and look pretty damn good. Um, and I like this scene a lot with Michael because we really wanted to show this scene, especially showing Admiral coming on, kind of giving the orders, and her giving it to Michael, because obviously they have that relationship from the Dreadnought, or from the Starship Valiant series. And then Michael coming up saying, "Hey, what the hell? What about me? Like, we got the strongest ship." And kind of starting to put him on that pedestal of arrogance that you'll see in the rest of the film, that he needs to kind of be knocked down a peg or two. But I really like this scene a lot because it shows that, Captain Cooper, feels entitled. And he finally gets what he wants here, but it's not necessarily something he should get. And of course, behind Michael King is the wonderful Scott Johnson, who did all the lighting on this and did a lot of did all the lighting for all the films for Starbase Studios. At least as far as I remember, he did. Talented guy, good friend. And then this is where everyone gets up, seeing that it's simulation, that it's not real. But I really loved this right here. Shows we go from competent commander to kind of sniveling, snood of a kid for Michael Sylvester's character, and he did a wonderful job on this character. And we told him ahead of time, we were like, "Look, they're not going to like you because you're not the Kirk, you're not the Picard, you're not that kind of captain." And he played it wonderfully. He really did. And Michael King plays Bishop, of course, perfectly. And he plays Michael, or he plays Bishop, like Bishop does in fan films, the confident, capable, captain. And Cooper is definitely not that captain, as you see in other fan films that we've done, he's a friendly guy, but he's not necessarily the captain per se. Not for this ship, I would say, where it shows that absolute power corrupts absolutely type mentality, and that's definitely this, but I love the banter between these two. And it's funny because it's the same bridge we shot on. It's, I love it because it's, if you didn't know that it was the same bridge, same setup, everything, you wouldn't know, but it's the same spot they were sitting in. But I love it. The visuals that Jeremy and Matt did on this were great. Michael's so cocky there. You can tell Michael just wants to slap the taste out of his mouth. I love it. So I love this visual here of Fedor. I love that back and forth. That's our motion picture warp. And this right here, this is probably one of the... So this right here, we had fundraised for the briefing room to get done, and we were going to do the hallway scene in that briefing room, kind of pan over, go through the hall, pan over into the briefing room, and have there be wall flats in the middle of the room, and then pan over to make ourselves a hallway. But for whatever purpose. It never got finished. So we actually made the transporter room into the hallway. So what you're seeing here is the corner where the two people, the gentleman in the red and the lady in blue, usually where they're standing would be pretty close to where the transporter control pad would be, where, you know, Scotty would stand to beam someone up. So we took that pad out. We put one of the control panels on the wall, you know, for someone to scan. And we made it look like a hallway. And then as we continued to do the pass, we just put wall flats so that if you look in the background, you can see kind of a shadow where people could actually walk around that. And so, and all that is right there is just 2 or 3 wall flats. And right behind the camera would be the transporter. So again, it's what the camera, you know, it's what the camera doesn't see, because this looks like a perfectly, you know, good hallway. And that's initially what I wanted for the briefing room for us to do for this shot. But like I said, it never got made. So we had, on day of shooting, we had to figure out how are we going to make this shot work? Because without this shot, you know, we couldn't get this beautiful shot. Or at the end of part 2, we have kind of the same shot with this, in this same type of room where people are running, you know, around the corner of the hallway with, you know, debris, and the captain's kind of walking down the hallway going, damn, you know, my ship's all fucked up, you know. And it's a beautiful shot filled with smoke and injured crew members, whatnot. But you really need that hallway so the captain can see the damage that he's done. But this transporter room was turned into actually several rooms. It was turned into this hallway. It was turned into the captain's quarters. It was turned into the mess hall. And it was also turned into the cargo bay of the USS Carson. So during the course of part 1 and part 2, it was turned into four different rooms. You know, we got a lot of use out of this one room and a couple of wall flats. So, yeah. But I loved how it just panned over, and then it pans over into the captain's quarters. And as you can see, that little rivet thing in the background is something that we would use, you know, that is used in the transporter room. You know, but we didn't take it down because, you know, we only had so much time to set up and take down and whatnot. And that model is made by Ron Siepel. He makes models, and he's very good at it, but he made that for the film. I still have that myself. There's Ron Siepel as Commander Tate. And we intentionally, with Ron, we didn't give him a lot to do, because we wanted him to be kind of more of a background character for this film, because he was supposed to, in the original storyline for Melbourne, he was supposed to be kind of stepping up to take his role, and by like episode 5, I think episode 4, he was going to actually step up to take command while the captain was captured on a planet or something, if I remember. And then when the captain comes back on board, Fedor's in the command chair, and there was a falling out between the captain and Tate before the captain leaves, and he kind of yells at Tate while he's on the planet, and he's like, "Get your shit together. Shit's falling apart. Get your shit together." And then Tate, steps up and finally takes command, but that's what gets him killed. And when Cooper comes back on board, he sees Fedor in the chair, and he's like, "I should have known you rescued me. Good job." And Fedor's like, "It wasn't me that did it. You should probably get down to sick bay." And so he goes down to sick bay, and he sees Tate in the medical bay, in the bed, dying. And Tate, asks him, kind of gets that, do I have your blessing? You know, um, your approval. And they have that kind of heart to heart scene. And it kind of angers Cooper because he's like the whole time Tate was always supposed to be that character that didn't deserve to have this spot, and Cooper never really approved of him, and that was supposed to be their dynamic. Um, so it was supposed to be that type of storyline. So that's why you kind of see Tate in the background, and he kind of sleeks over and hunches over, and he's just kind of it was kind of a serious take on Sigourney Weaver's role in Galaxy Quest, where she's like, I repeat the computer. And that was kind of our take on Tate, because it was going to lead to a much more interesting storyline. So, and that's USS Carson. I think the visuals on this are I would put it up against any fan film. I really do think the visuals on this are some of the best in any fan film. Like here, the CGI is top notch. Now this, everybody here was the comic pop crew. There's Jonathan and Richard. Richard's captain in the captain's chair. And there's Jonathan down in the background. But it was fun to take, and we shot this actually. This is the first one, first day we shot. But it was fun to take kind of bits and pieces of stuff from around the set and just put them all around the bridge. And up to that point, we hadn't, nobody had destroyed the bridge, to the point, at all. So it was kind of fun to kind of do it for the first time and just, destroy a set piece, that's Richard's son there in the corner. But this was a lot of fun. And that's the TMP beaming effect for those paying attention. And TMP tricorder right there. That's the Klingon there is my friend Jesse from work. Klingon knife. And this was a lot of fun to film. And again, like destroying the bridge. Like not many people get to say they got to wreck a Federation starship, but this was a lot of fun to do. And we got to fuck this uniform up because it was too small for anyone else. So, and anyone can see the patch on the captain's uniform there is a Melbourne patch, but we were like, just rip off part of the patch. No one will know. I love it's amazing what some dryer hose can do and what some foam can do on a this is so much fun. And those we put Easter eggs from other fan films on the flashes of thing that we were going through the Carson's memory banks because we wanted to flash to other fan films and give nods to other fan films. I always felt that was important to do because again, I always wanted to be inclusive. So that was something that was I was glad to do. Now this is the cargo bay, and that right there, sitting on the floor, is my friend Bill. He was so happy to be in a fan film. This was his first. And I was very happy to have him in there. So this is the Carson's cargo bay. which of course is the transporter room. We just put the transporter pad along the other wall, and then I brought some quote unquote cargo containers. They're actually natural casing containers from my work that I was able to take with me. And we were able to make, I think, 2 containers look like 4. So, it's amazing. It's amazing what movie magic does. Putting 2 up in one spot, then putting 2 in the other, and it makes it look like the whole room is full. So again, it's not what's actually there; it's what the camera sees. That kind of tricks the audience into making them believe that the whole room is full. And that is my Batleth. That, I think, is Jonathan. Yep, that's Jonathan on the floor in another Klingon outfit. See, those are the containers that I'm talking about that were from my work. And those are kind of a pain to haul partially across, the state because they're bulky. You can't really pack, your clothes very well when you with a suitcase when you got those things hauling around. But it was to get the effect on screen for cargo containers. Like nobody else has those in their films, so it was worth taking them. And I mean they're pretty light, but to give that Starfleet cargo type feel. And I love the fact that it does kind of feel like a claustrophobic cargo bay type. It doesn't quite feel like a transporter room, but it in a sense it does. But with those containers in here, it does feel like they're transporting stuff. It doesn't quite feel like a regular old transporter room. It feels like they're transporting cargo. So it gives the illusion that we were looking for. And that's my friend Sean from work. Fun fact, I made him grow that mustache because I wanted him to have kind of a Tom Selleck look. Plus, for me, I thought he'd look funny with the mustache, and I wanted to see if he would grow it, which he did. Bless his heart. He's a trooper. Everybody on this film was a trooper. And this is Roy. He's fun fact about this. We first off, if you look behind him, one of the Easter eggs we put in to show that Roy was not on the up and up. If you look behind him, you see the cage phaser, the TOS phaser, you see the motion picture phaser. And then underneath the motion picture phaser, you see the Star Trek. I think that's the Star Trek 6 phaser, or the Star Trek 3 phaser. I'm not sure. I think it's Star Trek 6 phaser. But either way, this phaser at the very bottom right-hand side of the screen is from the future. Because right now, it's the one in the very. It's in the top right-hand side. So the one at the very bottom right shouldn't belong there. And that's a dead giveaway that this guy is a guy out of time. And we put those subtle hints in there for anyone that pays attention to know that this guy is not supposed to be here. That something's off with this guy. It wasn't just an accident that we did this. It was intentional. So Roy, given the fact that we had just talked to an admiral earlier, and now all of a sudden here's this new admiral, something's off, but we did this on purpose because there was this guy who's now setting up the Melbourne stuff and putting us on now this wild goose chase. He is, there's much off with this guy, and I have followed up with that in my own films. It all started here. We wanted an admiral that kind of played into the trope of an evil admiral, but he was a Section 31 agent. He was a temporal agent. There was just a lot more with this character that we just never got around to doing. And Awesome Roy, this uniform is not a uniform. Roy was a last minute addition. Originally, we had a different guy play the captain, and he had to back out. So Michael Sylvester stepped up to be Captain Cooper, and Michael Sylvester was originally supposed to play this admiral because he had the admiral uniform, the TMP admiral uniform. So that left us open to this admiral. Like, who do we get to play this admiral? And I saw Roy had. He had shown up to the Promenadicon, and I was like, well, maybe he'd love to be in the film. And, of course, he said he would love to. But that, we couldn't get him in a uniform in time. So we tried to figure out, like, how can we fake this? And he was one eventually, after a couple, trial and errors, eventually he came up, I think he came up with, putting on a dress shirt and putting it backwards and seeing if that worked. And it came out wonderfully. Like, if you don't know that this is a dress shirt put on backwards, you wouldn't know. So, I think it came out wonderfully. I think he has one now, or at least has cosplayed one, faked one. But this, at the time, we were doing a lot of firsts at the time, because to see him, I'm sure everyone was going, what the hell is he doing? Because we were all watching as much as we could what was going on, behind the camera to get a sneak peek of what was going on with Melbourne. And I'm sure it probably looked really weird. Why is he in a dress shirt backwards, but it came out really wonderfully well. And these phasers behind him showing subtle hints that, hey, this admiral, he's not on the up and up. Like, I loved how that came out. I love the banter between him and Cooper. Cooper's suspicious, but yet, he's an admiral and everything. And I love Roy's delivery and all this. I love Roy and everything he does. He's such a trooper. I always feel bad because Roy will drive the distance, to have 2 minutes in a film, and I never give him enough to do. One day I need to just make like a Roy fan film. That's going to be the title of the film, Roy. He's an awesome guy, but he always, whether it's script reading to the crew members or, helping take care of, whatever's behind the set or, just helping out behind the scenes. He's one of the most valuable people in fan films. Never underestimate. If anyone needs an admiral or, just a good person behind the scenes, he's invaluable when he's on set. He's a good guy to have. So here, I think we come to the ending of, go into the warp. So we now are at the end of part 1. I want to thank you guys for joining me. I think part 1 was, we left on a cliffhanger, kind of going into part 2. And I think it holds up on its own, and I can't wait to do part 2 with you guys. So that being said, I will see you the next go around. So here's where it leads back to connecting to the Constar stuff, where Menard's going through the log entries and everything of Melbourne and whatnot. Again, it doesn't take much to connect back, because again, with the storylines and whatnot, trying to find the Melbourne ship, the Melbourne crew, whatnot. Because like I said, there was a lot that we connected with in the Constar series to the Melbourne. Didn't take much. Anyway, I want to thank you guys for joining me. And with that said, I will let this continue playing out, and I will talk to you guys next time. Be genuine, be safe, and keep on geeking on, guys.